the report of the Presbyterian Foundation Company together with the audited account for the financial year ended 30th September 2021.
Taken? Yes. Yes, here.
Thank you, Moderator. Moderator, I would suggest that the financial statements have serious omissions. I would suggest that we take the other report and the financial statements, just like the way we dealt with the Presbyterian University, they be referred to finalization with a discussion in the business committee.
Is that supported? So we take the main report and the accounts go to business committee. Is that taken? Yes. Okay, so that you draft that then, so that you leave out the first part and do another for the second part, so that we don't lose it. You'll get supplied with some paper from the secretariat and then get a second. Next one.
The GAC notes with appreciation the information availed in regard to our church in Uganda and Tanzania about the potential enormous growth, but hindered by scarcity of resources, and resolve that a strategy be explored to resolve this challenge.
Taken. Next one.
Number 3, the GAC observes that CAC television is almost standing on its own financially, and the foundation looks forward to receiving rent payment for the space occupied by the TV station.
Taken? Taken? It's dropped. It's dropped. You need no explanation if it is dropped. Unless you had asked a question. If you had raised a question to ask, then you would have been answered. Now some mesema no. Sidio mmesema? Aya, imeanguka. Hiyo ingine.
Number 4, the GAC notes with appreciation that the process of digitalization of all church data began and it's ongoing, and looks forward to the logical conclusion of the exercise.
Taken?
Number 5.
It's taken.
Number 5. The GAC observes that Milele Beach Hotel Mombasa and Milele Hotel Nairobi have commenced refurbishment, which will have an upward trajectory in its revenue streams.
Taken.
Number 6, the GAC notes that there is need for a rescue plan for the Milele luxury apartment, and resolve that the Presbyterian Foundation Limited Board of Directors source for a financial facility to complete the Milele luxury apartment.
Already since we formed a committee to consult on these matters, let's not go preempt what they will say. That could be one of the things they will say, let's do it. So let's not have that resolution because of that development that we already have in the house. The next one.
The last one, the GAC notes and resolves that the foundation assets be returned to them to support its revenue streams.
Taken. There's a hard. Let's hear the one who has raised his hand.
Moderator, I would like to propose an amendment that it is subject to, number 1, a board charter, so that the directors know exactly what they are supposed to do, and the committees what they are supposed to do. It must be presented, and possibly be presented to the business committee for approval, and a strategic plan.
I hear like you are saying we drop that resolution and then you formulate the one you are suggesting. Yes. Because if we mix up the two, they may not lime together. Old wine skins, new wine. So can we drop this one and then you phrase it the way you want? Had we dropped, I had like people had said no? Yes. Can we hear the proposal of the resolution now? Onawangai, again, can you phrase what, say the board, the foundation come up with, whatever terms you are using?
That the return of the properties, which will be itemized, will be subject to a board charter presented to the business.
I thought that we don't tie it to the return, but those are documents that are needed.
Yes.
So just say this and that should be done. About return of investments, it has not been accepted.
Okay.
Yes.
So this GAC directs the Presbyterian Foundation to present a board charter, proposed board charter to the business committee, and also to present its strategic plan, which ought to be in today's record, to the business committee for perusal.
Taken? Thank you. Any other resolution? No other resolution. We need to thank you. Take your seat.
Thank you, Moderator, sir.
Yes. We need to thank the foundation board. We must agree that they have worked under very difficult conditions, which they did not author. Some were authored by men and women who are not in our midst. It's like we suffer the original sin. So much as we know that we have put a bit of pressure on them, it's not necessarily the people here and the board presently who got into the challenges that we are in. They have inherited them. And I can attest that they have tried their best to try and resolve some of those challenges. Even the issues of the documents that are being mentioned, they ought to have been there. So we need to commend them for the work they have done. I'm sure they will do much more in the days ahead, but that's what happens. Whenever you get into an office and there are issues that were there before you, you have to navigate through them. You hear that it's possible for the Secretary General to be committed to civil jail. She didn't mention the moderator. It's possible for food to be paid for at committee. And again, these are things that they have inherited. And I tell you, they have done their best to handle them. Sure, but they still need to do more, and we will support them to go through it. So give them a clap as they take their seats. We get to the next order.
Moderator, we are still pushing on, and I still want to remind us we still have a business, but the next order is the PCMF report, Men Ministry report.
Walisema wakiitwa wataitika, ndio hao. We said if you notice anyone who has left prematurely, report to this number. Usiogope kuripoti, because si tuliokoka. Tuliokoka ndio tuwe tukisema ukweli uko wapi. Wana Thika, muko hapa? Thika Presbytery. And there was, kuna roho alikuwa ananiambia mmoja wenu hayuko. Where is the moderator? Oh, he has. Fair. Good enough. Thank you. Waodhaya alirudi. Mshukaji. Naye dada akaenda. Oh, asante. Tuendelee.
Thank you, moderator of the 23rd General Assembly, Secretary General, Deputy Secretary General, Honorary Treasurer, our fathers in God, honorable delegates, honorable commissioners and delegates. I stand representing representing the PCMF or the men ministry, and this is found in document 14 in the whole docket. And moderator, with your permission, on interest of time, I'll be specific to the key highlights. And from the introduction, the Presbyterian Church Men Fellowship, as a united Christian force of men, presents their report for the year under review, the year 2021, that's from January to December. And as we have all taken it, the year was marked by the constraining challenges operating under the new normal, that's due to COVID-19 pandemic. However, PCMF operated under a theme within the early part of the year, our hope and the future, which was taken from the words of Prophet Jeremiah, when we note the children of Israel were in constraint, and God gave a message of hope through Prophet Jeremiah. For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, and they are plans for good, not to disaster, and they are to give you a hope and a future. That's Jeremiah 29:11. PCMF has strategic directions as guided by their mission and the vision and motto and the core values, but I'll put from the vision, our key focus is to see the spiritual maturity of man and the service to the glory of God. And guided by the motto from Romans 12:11, never be lacking in zeal, but be fervent in spirit, serving the Lord with a heart full of devotion. And that's why we say, nitafanya kazi ya Bwana, I will do serve the Lord. The core mandate is to grow and equip holistic men as disciples of Jesus Christ for Christian service in the family, church, and the society. Through the year, we operated under a board of members who are representatives from the 5 regions, and I'm happy to say I stand together with the chairman, Reverend Michael Jige, and the other names as follows. We operate through 8 core programs. The first one, which is key, is on spirituality, that is discipleship, and this is where we major on.
Just list them and move to the next.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's man and family, man and the mentorship. And the man and mentorship, we have YPCMA boy and the boys' right of passage, man and health, man and environmental stewardship, man and education, man and economic empowerment, man and fight against addictions. And the major achievements for the year under review, we held our leaders conference, which comes in February, as earlier cited, through the theme which was well expounded by the moderator then. And we had also our patron, the very Reverend Dr. Jessica Mau, giving words of encouragement in our one-day conference. Then we have also shared in great recruitments, and here we appreciate the role played by our parish ministers and the elders through the sessions. Also, we had one other great achievement, though operating under the constraints, the rite of passage, the ROPS program. PCMF partners with a researcher who has been taking a master's degree program under the International University, the United States International University.
Again, just list them so that you can call the chair to second.
Okay, thank you.
And
And
constraint of time.
thank you, moderator. I oblige. And I will say, out of the research, we are working the way forward. And due to the constraints, the director majored on capacity building. And within the many challenges, we would say, finally, the one I would love to highlight, moderator, is on the recruitment of the YPCMF is a key area where we would encourage that PCMF at the grassroots to embrace the younger and married men. And with that, allow me, moderator, to ask.
Dictionaries of YPCMF propose a basic working document for the same, or to recommend for a full audit and evaluation of the restructured operations to map out a comprehensive way forward. Number 3, conduct more capacity building in the parishes and regional forums on psychological wellness, including mental health. Number 4, encourage more men to take the church school training course offered by the children ministry so that they can take their active role in children ministry. And number 5, Mr. Moderator, come up with a blended curriculum for the rite of passage program in response to the findings after the research is published. And with that, Mr. Moderator, sir, I second the report.
2 questions. There are no questions. Note that the accounts are not in the docket. They are getting circulated now. We are sorry for that. So could the accounts be circulated for all the groups? Is it? Is it for all the groups? Can you take a few minutes and circulate them as we hear 1 or 2 comments? I know you needed maybe to have gone through the accounts for those with a keen eye on accounts, and they didn't have them. So I'm sure we haven't done them justice. We haven't done them justice because they have never had the time. Okay. So those handouts are being circulated. Any comment? Reverend Jehe? Now there's no one to circulate the mic, or there is a lady over there.
Thank you, Moderator, and the Assembly. It is to note the way the point about the retrogressive cultural practices as one of the challenges. It is good to note that it is not only a central region which is affected by this practice, but even other regions, we have the same problem. Thank you.
Oh, they say it's the central region. Okay, yeah, it is beyond, although it's worse in central region, so-called Mount Kenya, with a basket of votes. I'm giving time for distribution. In case you see anything on that account that you'd wish to talk about, you can talk about it, not necessarily now, but as we go on. We'll allow that to happen. So take time, study it, and we allow time for questions. Can we hear the resolutions?
Thank you, Moderator, for the grace extended for those accounts. There was an omission in the pasting in the docket, and thank you for accepting. From the document 14, the resolutions are as follows. This GAC receives the PCMF report, and since the audited accounts are not yet perused through, I don't know, Moderator, how to reframe this. I need wisdom from the Chair.
The accounts belong to all the groups.
Yes.
Therefore, maybe we could pass them, all of them at one point.
Yes.
just talk about the narrative.
So this GAC receives the PCMF report and commends the good work despite the COVID-19 challenge, the COVID-19 among other challenges.
Taken? Yes.
This GAC appreciates the mentorship work done in PCMF through the rite of passage for boys. Further, the GAC instructs PCMF board to fast-track the research, to fast-track the findings of this research and come up with a basic working learning curriculum for the same.
Taken?
This GAC instructs PCMF to take up a detailed audit report of the department since restructuring to guide later directions for constitutional review.
Its own constitution.
Its own constitution review, yes.
Taken? Yes. Any additional? No additional. An additional resolution? And June, yes?
Thank you, moderator and the court. I wish to request that the PCMF to have an additional on a resolution that this GAC instructs PCMF to evaluate and research on and develop a manual on how to educate our congregation on these outdated traditions.
Taken? Taken? He is talking about a manual that could help in that matter. But I hear no's or yes? No. And are you bringing in a resolution?
Not a resolution.
Then the other one has fallen.
Oh, I was giving just, okay, thank you,
Yeah,
moderator.
Yeah, it's no longer there. So it shouldn't bother you. Yes. So we are done. Another resolution? Okay, 11 medium.
This GAC notes and appreciates the good work done by men ministry to mentor boy-child. Further, it directs the presbyteries to encourage and train male teachers as an affirmative action.
Taken? Taken? Yes. And I hear more sopranos. But they have carried the day. Thank you. Looks like there is no other resolution. So, PCMF, thank you for the good work. Wapigie makofi wakiondoka. Before PCMA will leave, mtarudi kizibani. Kuna sheria inarelease watu na inasema wanaweza rudishwa cell tena. Kwa hivyo kuna kitu ambacho SG alikuwa ameona na alikuwa anataka kuchangia.
Yeah, moderator sir, just concerned because I don't know whether we heard what the Elder Joru had said. Because I think it is very important for us to come up with a solution. And one of the solutions is to have a formula on how we are going to educate our people. So I think what we need is to reformulate that instead of thrashing it out. We come up with a clear formula, because if we just leave it hanging, and all of us have agreed this is a problem about the retrogressive cultural issues. So, moderator, I think it is good for us to give a clear thought about that, and we see how we are going to educate, and especially these young men, they are being recruited into these negative cultural practices during circumcision, during these other issues. So I think it is something this House can give a proper consideration instead of just saying no. So, Moderator, with your permission, I would request that the one who was contributing to that, he be given a chance to explain or to reformulate that so that we can maybe amend that instead of trashing it off, because throughout we've not come up with a clear solution to the retrogressive cultural issues we are facing.
Yeah, by now I have extended the grace on that matter because I had also mentioned about the outdated traditions, and we came up with a resolution that talked about presbyteries doing an evaluation. But again, I think we need something, like they have come up with a manual on the rite of passage, and they are developing a document on the same. But the question is, what do we have? When we talk about the outdated traditions, what do we have at hand? If people asked us, tunaenda kusema ni gani na ni nini, and why, theology kidogo, na hata kuangalia hiyo mambo ya zamani, sababu hawa watu kama nilivyosema, they just distort information, halafu wanaletea watu na mnasikia kama ni mpya. They come up with a terminology, gomi, and when you hear that you think it's something very new. Kumbe ni neno ambayo wameinnovate ili wauze bidhaa zao. So we need a study, possibly, I don't know, but I think we should introduce it. So I allow 2 contributions and then hear the resolution led once again. Reverend Shangale, Dr. Gishero. Maiki imepelekwa nyuma kwanza. Lakini imefika. Sawa.
Moderator, you've said something that I wanted to the GAC to note, that we had a resolution in the moderator's resolutions about the retrogressive or whatever, so I don't think. But the PCMF needed to clarify better, because I remember there was some working that was done about the same issues, and a document was being developed. How far have it gotten? If we again give them a date to do the same, and there was something that if I don't lose my memory, they were doing that as a PCMF.
Dr. Gishero?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Retrogressive cultural practices do not only affect men, they cut across the board, including women. And therefore, even as we talk about PCMF developing a manual, we need to be all inclusive so that whatever is developed reflects and also counsels all our groups, all our sectors of the family which are affected by those retrogressive cultures. So I would suggest that the work that is suggested to be done be collaborative between the PCMF and the women and the Christian education, that area. That collaborative work will be more comprehensive and more helpful, for the church. Thank you.
They had mentioned it in their narrative, therefore they could be the lead. But just as you have said, they can't handle it alone. They will require to get resource people to help them, and those departments you have mentioned and others could also be part of that. But we could task them to be the lead group, because they had mentioned it in their narrative. Rajoru, now you can lead your resolution. It looks like it will fight soft landing. So lead out the resolution now and thank us.
matter in the court for consideration. I can give a little bit of preamble what I was trying to say.
In very few
a very short preamble. Most of these outdated, as the moderator had mentioned in his report, and what is happening on the Nini. It is not the actual practice that used to exist there. And there are clear research which has been done, what used to exist. So what is done today is actually a lie. It's actually a lie. But if you tell them clearly what used to be, there will be very clear information, and they will find it is no longer relevant in the society. So I was fighting it. This GAC, we instruct this GAC to instruct the PCMF to evaluate and research on causes of retrogressive cultural practice in our society and develop a manual to educate our men and women on the adverse effects of retrogressive cultural practices.
Sweeted now? Good. Ndio mtu hahubiri jambo mara moja. Unahubiri, unarudia saa nyingine, na nyinyi washirika wakati mwingine wazee mnasema ati tunarudia sermon. Tunarudia kwa sababu tunaona hamukupata. Sio kukosa ingine, ni kuona hii bado hamujabadilika. Kwa hivyo ndio mmeona hiyo sermon imerudiwa na tayari tumepata watu wamekubali. So, and I'm sure you will also work, the jury will work with PCMF. They can, because you say there is work that is already done. We are also there, we will help, so that that manual can be developed as quickly as possible, so that there is no vacuum on this matter. That done now, you are released now, not to be arrested. We now go to the next order.
Moderator, sir, and it's already 6:30. So the next order is the report of the Christian education.
Wondering who will say court. But a good Samaritan just happened. Okay, proceed. Very few minutes. So make the key highlights in 1-2 minutes.
Yeah. Thank you, moderator, for the opportunity. And I will do as instructed. I will highlight. Firstly, is to say that Christian education is about discipleship, and that is equipping the learner to become like Christ. And it helps manage transitions properly, covering the span from the womb to the tomb. So what we do as a church, educating, informing, growing God's people, is Christian education. For that reason, we work with all departments, we work with all the other ministries. Also to say that the role of Christian education, simply put, is also to advise, facilitate, sensitize, intervene, educate, and represent. And I think I'll leave that there. In terms of the activities for the year under review, we have had first, institutional interactions, and they are very well stipulated there. And one notable interaction is that the school where we co-sponsor with other churches, and that is Alliance High School, had a wonderful groundbreaking ceremony for the construction of a new chapel for the school, and we have a serious interest in that, and we thank God that our moderator, together with the other heads of the churches, are presided over that. Number 2, capacity building, very well stipulated. Number 3, chaplaincy and outreach, and that being the year when we had a pandemic, we tried very much to leverage on other mediums of communication, social media, and others. The other one is ecumenical and stakeholder engagement. And we are very glad that we have been able to engage with organizations and institutions in whom we share interests, like the Ministry of Education, KICD, TSC, NCCK, to name a few. Number 5, Sermon Notebook with lectionary. We released the 3rd edition in that year, and we are glad that the uptake is improving. And our prayer, and as we move on, is that we'll slowly grow as a family and together embrace thematic teachings and preaching. Rays of Hope, we've continued to leverage on that media platform in GAC TV, and we're grateful. And we've been able to educate, sensitize, and give hope, especially during that difficult year. Also social media presence, and I talked about that. Mediation training, we've continued to use this opportunity because the church entered into an MOU, and so far we are glad that we have 40 trained mediators. Some of them are in our midst, and we continue undertaking this training. It's a 5-day training, and it's virtual still at the moment, and it's a very good training, especially as we move to where we are going as a country. Data collection.
Move to the rest.
Thank you. Collection of data, and the challenge there is that we don't seem to be getting enough feedback, but with the little we have, we've done something. Scholarships. We are glad that we have 2 students at Kiangwa Mixed High School under sponsorship through Christian Education. PCS Rai Primary School continues to move on, a few challenges, but we are coping and we're moving on. The Christian Education Week 2021 went on well, and we are grateful. Freed to Free, held by the Shepherd's Hand, was the theme of the year. Now, education sector updates. They are very well written there. The CBC transition, the issue of the CRE curriculum, and there I must highlight that it's our church, and through our moderator, that was able to draw the attention of NCCK and KCCB to the syncretization of the curriculum. And that has been addressed by the CS, and a directive given that all that ATR information and stuff should be removed from the curriculum. That is something to thank God for. Challenges. With the diverse aspects of education, and this time I'm talking about formal education, we feel that we require some specialized, some very focused attention in order to do justice to this important sector. So we have also a challenge of communication, as stated earlier, and we don't seem to be getting feedback as fast as we would want to, and yet in the education sector, matters keep changing, and we need to be up to speed if we are to arrest some of the situations. So future plans is that we shall continue leveraging on media platforms.
Thank you.
In order to
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We can have the seconder now.
I now invite the chair of Christian Education to second.
Moderator, sir, in seconding the report, I must say that we are grateful to God because we've gone through a very challenging year. We do appreciate as a department because of the support of the Office of the General Assembly, also the church department, an institution that offered us support. We continue to give Christ-centered knowledge so that God's people are not destroyed for lack of knowledge, and also consider their ways. As we continue healing from the effects of COVID-19 pandemic, we learned some lessons, and we can also continue to teach the same. As it has been said over and over, we may never go back to quote normal because of the pandemic, but we continue to pray to God as we recover in this country and all of us. Thank you so much, Moderator, sir.
Thank you. 2 questions. Oh, there are 3. Elder Guyo.
Thank you, Moderator sir. We appreciate the report of the Education Committee. I wish to note the loneliness of the director as she walked to that place, and wish to ask what structures exist in the department to support her and also link her with the schools and education offices at county and sub-county level as far as formal education is concerned. Number 2 is the department involved in CRI curriculum development and development of learning resources by the state at those levels. 3, chaplaincy. What is the department doing to ensure that when the policy on chaplaincy in school is implemented, we shall have chaplains in every school?
Anja.
Thank you, Moderator and the Assembly. Mine is just to ask if the other department has boards, why is Christian education lacking that board? And if my memory serves me better, I remember the board was disbanded in a GAC in Busara Academy back 2013 or so. Is it the high time we need that board back? Thank you.
Thank you. Now, who do we give, who do we deny? Rebecca Gwamba, then Level Rubonga.
Thank you, Moderator. I would like to thank the department, particularly for innovation of someone notebook with the lectionary. But my take is that the actual value does not really reflect the market value. And that will become a hindrance because customers will buy once and they will not buy again. So can they please try to add at least 25% of the actual value so that they can determine their price instead of overrating the price.
Yonikali.
Thank you, Moderator sir. I want to add to what one of my colleagues has said, that our sister seems to be lonely, and I know you'll get a resolution for that. I am on PPI because we are getting problems on the ground. Yes, PPI is being taught, but maybe because there is a problem with link, training is a problem, material is a problem. So my question to the director is, what solution is her office giving or offering to this situation? Thank you.
Answers now.
Thank you, Moderator sir. First question about the structures. We have continued to work with the church structures. Well, we acknowledge there is a challenge. So what has kept us going is that through the GA office, through the office of the SG, communicating and engaging the regional councils, engaging the presbyteries, we've been able to do something. So that's the linkage that exists at the moment. And we have 2 RESs, one acting at Central region, and we also have one in Eastern region. Number 2, in terms of the question about development of curriculum, yes, we are involved through NCCK because we operate as an umbrella. And so through NCCK, we have representation when drafting is being done, when editing of the curriculum is being done. And we now, after engaging NCCK so far, we are now receiving feedback. Now there is communication that is going on. So we are represented, yes. Chaplaincy, glad to report that the ministry set apart a committee to come up with a framework for chaplaincy in our schools, and our very own Reverend John Gatto is the chair of that, so we get regular feedback. Now, there was a quagmire, and recently, while representing the moderator of the General Assembly at the CS's office, the CS promised to fast-track that issue. The quagmire, the problem has been that according to the Education Act 2013, the sponsors are supposed to take care of the chaplains. And so the government got stuck. The rest of the framework is very good, but now who pays? TSC has a shortage of teachers, so they don't want another burden. So that's a quagmire. A small committee was set up 2 weeks ago to go and look into that, how we can get out of that problem, so that, because the government acknowledges that we need an intervention in our schools. So that's work in progress. The lectionary, I want to confirm that it's not overrated. The actual production cost is 400 shillings. Therefore, we sell it at 500 shillings. The 100 shillings goes to support Sirai Primary School in Rumuruti. So it's not overrated. The quality is good, and that's the cost across board. PPI, yes, I must admit, the last 2 years have been difficult because we've not been able to go out and train. That has been the only reason, because we were training in 2019, but when Corona came, we paused. Now things have opened up. We are moving. So there is hope. Thank you. I hope I've answered.
Now we get to comments. There's one, Level Murege. There's another one there. It's getting dark. Level Kenywa. Level Murege is over here. Level Kenywa is over here.
I wish to congratulate the Christian education for the good work. My comment is on the notebook and the lectionary. I think I need to say that has been a very great help in preparing of sermons. I encourage maybe all of us to embrace that notebook and lectionary in preparing for our sermons, so that we become thematic on every Sunday, so that everywhere in Kenya, PCA sermon is the same. If you are in Nairobi, it is the same. If you are in Kiambu, it's the same. I think that's a very good book.
Thank you. Level Kenywa.
Thank you, Moderator Sir. I want to appreciate the report from the Christian education and make one or two comments. One is concerning the RES. I think that is an office that is not very clear, especially for us in Eastern. So we need more input from the department to know exactly what is the mandate of the RES, what should they be doing, and what is the responsibility of the region. Number two, that office ought to be strengthened by way of, for example, giving this work like this collection of data. This is an office that should be very important and is the one which could be assisting in the collection and submission of data. Because otherwise, if they don't do that, I don't see them having so much work. The third comment, Moderator Sir, is the importance of this education board. It has been brought up by three earlier speakers, although they brought it as a way of, as a question. But I think we are missing it when we don't have a strong body which is able to speak for our schools. And whether we like it or not, in some of these places we are in, our schools